August 1977 began in the town of Glen Ridge, Alabama, with an unprecedented heavy and suffocating heat. This small town was famous for its cotton fields and dense forests that could not be touched by human feet. The rhythm of life here was measured only by the sound of Sunday bells. There was no soul in the black area of the city that did not know a man named Pastor Elijah Moore. Elijah was not only a churchman, she was the support of the entire community, a symbol of justice and a spiritual father who healed the souls of many people. His house was always open, and when his voice read prayers, the video thundered like a waterfall falling from a mountain, instilling peace in people's hearts. However, on the night of August 12th, Glen Ridge changed forever. That night, Pastor Elijah was sitting in his study preparing his sermon for the coming Sunday. On the table lay his favorite Bible, a cup of half-drunk coffee, and a pencil. But at some point, everything calmed down. According to neighbors, at midnight, a strange bluish light shot into the sky from the forest side, and then there was no sound from the pastor's house. In the morning, the people gathered at the church could not find Elijah. The door to his house was wide open, but there were no signs of struggle or robbery inside. He was gone, as if the video had melted in one air or an invisible force had taken him away in a second. The police took the case seriously. In those days, the loss of a black man in Alabama was not a big deal for the authorities. The sheriff quickly closed the case with a cold conclusion that he left voluntarily or moved to another state, fleeing from debts. But Elijah's family, especially her young son Marcus, never believed it. They knew that the pastor would never leave his congregation. Years passed, dust covered the city of Glen Ridge, and the name of Elijah Moore remained only in the memory of the old. Exactly 25 years later, in November 2002, the solution to this mystery was unexpectedly found. A lumberjack named Jacob Miller, who was busy cutting down a thick forest on the outskirts of the city, knocked down a giant 100-year-old oak. When the roots of the tree pulled out of the ground, a deep cavity was opened, which was hidden under it. At the bottom of that cavity lay an iron box covered with moss, rusty, but tightly closed. When Jacob took out this box and wiped the dirt off his face, it was engraved on his face with the inscription E. Moore. This name was remembered by the whole city. The moment the box was unlocked, the body of Jacob and the other workers gathered next to him was horrified. Inside the box lay the clothes that Pastor Elijah wore on the day of his disappearance in 1977, his silver cross, and a thick diary covered in skin. The most terrible thing was that there were no bones or body remains inside the clothes, but they lay in the same position, without folding, as if the video was being worn by one person. Opening the pages of the diary, the researchers found notes written in the last days of 1977. The pastor wrote that in recent months, someone has been watching himself, and at night shadows appear behind his window, unlike a person. In the last note, he said, "They called me. I have to go to the bottom of the oak tree. They call this place the Seam of Time. If I don't return, no, I didn't die. I just became a prisoner of another time." After this entry, the rest of the pages of the diary had already drawn images of technologies and scientific formulas that were still unknown in 1977, and even future events such as the fall of the World Trade Center in 2001. This news shocked all of America. Experts confirmed that the inscription in the diary belonged to the real Elijah Moore. But how did the pastor manage to predict the future in 1977? Another item found in the drawer was an old tape recorder. When it was activated, heavy breathing and a hoarse voice spread throughout the room. The owner of the voice introduced himself as Elijah Moore, but this voice resembled the voice of a 90-year-old, not a 40-year-old. He said, "I have been under this tree for 25 years. One night has passed for you, and a whole life has passed for me. I have seen your future. It is very dark. Don't look for me. I'm among you now, but you don't know me." After these words, another mysterious incident occurred in the city of Glen Ridge. In the evening of the same day, an unfamiliar, aged black old man appeared in front of the pastor's old church, but with burning eyes. Without talking to anyone, he went to Elijah's old house, smiled at Marcus standing at the door, and said, "It's time, son." Marcus at that moment felt that this person was his own grandfather. But how could he have come back for 25 years without getting old or completely different? The FBI and secret scientific groups investigated this incident, but they could not find any logical explanation. The radiation background of the soil at the site where the box was found was 1,000 times higher than normal, indicating a violation of physical laws in this place. Some researchers have suggested that the same oak tree in Glen Ridge was a natural portal to time. Pastor Elijah Moore may have traveled to the future by voluntarily entering that portal to save her community or to prevent one major disaster. Today in Glen Ridge, nothing grows on the site of this oak tree, and the pastor's box is kept in the museum as a secret object. People still say that when they pass through the area, time slows down and they hear the pastor's whispered prayer. This story remains the most mysterious history, proving how thin the line between faith and science, between the past and the future. Over time, in the town of Glen Ridge, this story began to become legendary. The locals were afraid to go to the forest side after sunset. Especially people who approached the territory where the oak tree stood were told that their heads were spinning, their clocks stopped, and some, when they walked around the area, their forgotten memories of childhood came to life. It turned out that the old people of the city have long called this place a border that only the chosen ones can cross. For Marcus Moore, this event radically changed the meaning of his life. He had been away from the path of religion before the disappearance of his father, but after that night, the pastor began to read Elijah's diary over and over again, looking for hidden signs and secret codes in his notes. On some surfaces, there were drawings and symbols that at first glance seemed incomprehensible. However, scientists who carefully studied them noticed that these images are very similar to theories describing the bends of time-space. The most terrible thing is that these theories began to be discussed in official science only after 2010. The FBI investigation was transferred to the secret level. Several times, unknown military helicopters flew over the city, and the forest area was fenced with iron bars. But no matter how many guards were put, it was recorded that the cameras were turned off for a moment at night, and in the morning, a second of free space appeared in their memory. In the same second, the air temperature would drop sharply and the radiation level would rise again. And that strange old man was never officially registered after that day. Reports began to arrive that he was seen in the city, once near the hospital, once at the railway station, and sometimes even in the schoolyard. But the characteristics of the people who saw him were not alike. Some said that he was very old. Others said that they saw him as a middle-aged man. Only everyone admitted that his gaze makes a person straight and gives the impression that he is reading his soul. Marcus sat in the basement of his father's old house one night and listened to the recording on the recorder again, but this time at the end of the cassette, there was a whisper that was not there before. A faint but clear voice said, "Time is not a river. He is a wound, and we are in that wound." At that moment, the basement light flashed for a moment, and the clock on the wall began to go backwards. Marcus was not afraid. He felt only one thing clearly. This story is not over yet. Pastor Elijah Moore was back, but he was no longer the only one. He was a soul that time itself witnessed, violated its laws, and was ready to stop one great catastrophe in the future. Today, some secret documents say that several major disasters that occurred in America after 2003 were prevented in advance. And there is evidence that a number of these disasters were changed at the last moment by an invisible force. All these changes coincide with the time fluctuations recorded in the Glen Ridge area. Perhaps Pastor Elijah Moore is still among us. Maybe he's walking past you right now, and you don't recognize it, because time reveals its secrets only to those who are ready.